It's good to have you here on your first agricultural television station in the nation, the Agricultural Research Council of Nigerian Television. The program is Back to Farm. It's a program tailored towards making sure we all are able to roll ourselves so we can actually go back to farm, because Nigeria's population is on the increase and there is need to be able to sustain ourselves in whatsoever area of agriculture so that we can be self-sufficient in food and food security. For those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, of course, my name remains Joshua Isha, your host on the program. Today on the program, it's quite interesting because I have a very rare, also a very regular person on the show, talking about Mr. Bola Olutade. It's good to have you, Mr. Bola, again on our program.
Yeah, it's good to be back here.
Yeah, it's
Thank
really
you
good.
for having me again.
All right. Well, the last time we came here, we discussed about rabbits, but today we're going to be a little bit different from rabbits today. Today we're going to be talking about the prevalence of poultry disease and its mortality rate. The issue of having mortality rate, I think, among all the animal form of agriculture, that is rearing of animal or breeding, whatever it is, one of the ones that is quite dangerous, and people have said it takes someone who is bold enough to venture into a poultry business. And of course, why? Because of the mortality rate. It can be 100% at minimum, probably 5% at minimum, but it can actually be that bad to 100%. So today we're going to be looking at the prevalence of poultry disease and its mortality rate, how it actually affects the industry in general, because as we speak, Nigeria as a country up to now, we import frozen meat, especially poultry meat, and it's not ought to be so. I can tell you with no doubt that almost 50% of the poultry meat, either turkey or even chicken itself, they are being imported into the country. So we're going to be looking at these diseases that is usually the prevalence and affects the mortality rate. Mr. Oltade, again, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, in my introduction, I just talked about the fact that we've seen a lot of poultry backing out of business as a result of mortality rate. Of course, we know prevalence of diseases is one thing that is the most thing. It's hardly any other thing, but I know is the issue of the diseases. Basically now, in this topic, the prevalence of poultry disease and its mortality rate, what can you actually, in a nutshell, to a layman, try to define this term for the layman to understand?
Thank you very much, Mr. Josh. Diseases and in poultry business, it's one of the risks that we face in poultry. There are so many diseases that affect poultry, especially in Nigeria, and these diseases, most of them, they have the peak period in which they are prevalent in Nigeria, especially around May and June. That is when the rain has really settled. That's why we have a lot of these diseases outbreak, because at that period, everywhere is humid and everywhere is wet, so it gives an enabling environment for pathogenic organisms to reproduce and spread very easily. So now, there are a lot of diseases that affect poultry that makes most poultry to pack up in time. Just like you said in your introduction, some of these diseases can cause almost 100% mortality. Almost 100% mortality. But most of them can be prevented.
Okay.
Most of them can be prevented. But when you're dealing with nature, natural things, it is left for you to make environment very conducive for them, but that does not mean that 100% those birds will be okay. There is tendency that change in environment, unexpected things will come, and it will affect them. But you can guide against all those things.
Okay.
You can guide against all them. That's by vaccination, by medication, and by biosafety.
Okay.
So those are things you can do to mitigate or reduce the effect of all these diseases on your poultry.
All right. Now, you talked about the peak period in which these diseases usually have the opportunity to break in. So during that very period, you talked about the precautionary measures and all that. During that period, is it advisable for one to probably maybe go on a break? Because I believe that are bit like in rainy season, like we all know, everybody goes to farm when it's rainy season. You know, there are things you don't venture into during dry season. So is it advisable to, or you can still, because some people say it's a game of risk as well.
It is.
You know, so what is your best advice for people during that peak period in which something can happen? Is it best to retrieve and then come back?
No,
okay,
because of the demand for poultry products.
Okay.
And you may not need to retreat at that period of time. You just have to guide against exposing your birds to pathogenic organisms. Just like I said, okay, now we have diseases that are very prevalent in Nigeria. They are mostly Newcastle disease, coccidiosis, gumboro. So these ones are very, very prevalent, but they have vaccinations. So the vaccination increase the immunity of your poultry or your birds against these diseases. So when you vaccinate them against Newcastle, against gumboro, against coccidiosis, and sometimes ectoparasites, that's lice on them, it affects their productivity too. When it is now very endemic, it can kill your birds. That's lice in these cases. But Newcastle disease, when it comes into your pen, into your poultry farm, it can wipe out the whole farm. But there's vaccination for it. For gumboro, there's vaccination. There is treatment for coccidiosis, prophylactic treatment.
What is the cause for this Newcastle? What's the cause? What causes Newcastle disease?
Newcastle is a viral disease. So now, it can be transmitted from dam to the young ones. That's if the parents have Newcastle when they were laying the eggs. The eggs were incubated and hatched. So there's every tendency that there will be some traces of Newcastle virus in the young ones. Then again, it can be taken from the environment where you are breeding them. If you have a lot of farms around you, so viral diseases fly in the air. So the air can bring them into your farm too. That can affect your birds. Then naturally in the environment, we have a lot of these pathogenic organisms, especially if it's a farm that has been used over and over. If it's a new farm, you may not necessarily have Newcastle outbreak. But if it is a farm that has been used over and over, a lot of people are coming in and going out, a lot of utensils have been recycled. So there is tendency that diseases can be transmitted from one farm to your farm, or by people that are coming into your farm. They can carry most of these diseases into your farm. Then it could be from feed, it could be from water. So all of these things are there, and they can make your birds to catch one or two of these diseases. But the sure bet to protect your poultry from them is to vaccinate. But meanwhile, vaccination may not necessarily give you 100% protection from the bird. Why? If the vaccines are not handled properly, the cold chain were not maintained. So there's probability that the vaccine may break down. So you may have vaccine failure. You may have vaccine failure. Then again, another problem is under vaccination. For example, you have 1,000 birds and you are using vaccine that will be sufficient for only 500 on them. So the vaccine titer in the birds will not be adequate to fight the viral infection when it comes. So that one too may expose your birds to infection from these diseases. Then another one is if you have poor hygienic environment, you don't take hygiene into consideration, your places are dirty, which make these pathogenic organisms to grow very easily. So there's tendency for your birds to catch these diseases. So you have to improve on your about safety measures. Reduce movement into your farm. People that have visited other farms, reduce their movement into your own farm. Now, don't use utilities or utensils that have been used somewhere else and bring them into your farm. They could be agents of disease transmission. So you should restrict that so that you will limit the rate at which you introduce diseases into your farm. So that's a way of reducing all these infections on your farm.
Yeah, there is this common saying by Nigerian farmers, you know, when you get talking with people and then they tell you, poultry, no, they fit me, oh. You know, is it a myth or reality that there are some people that are intentionally, or is it about the knowledge is not sufficient? You know? But for me, I don't really believe that is true, because this is rampant with Nigerians. When you say, why not going to poultry? You say, the thing, no, they fit me, oh. And that's what I put last time, everything died, you know. That very issue, is it a reality? Because believe me, this very sentence I just quote, it's very rampant anywhere. Some people don't dare go into it because they believe as soon as they go into it, they might all die, not knowing that we don't know. Is it a myth or reality? This very cliche.
As a scientist, I would say it's a myth. Okay. Because there are certain procedures and preparations you have to put on ground before you go into any enterprises. Yeah. The first one is the knowledge. The knowledge of exactly what you want to do. A lot of people want to go into poultry business. They don't know what they are supposed to do. The preparation of the pen house, how they are going to prepare the pen, that is cleaning, then what do you call it, fumigating, and you know, using antibacterial organisms to clean up the places that you're going to keep your birds. Then again, another problem is maintaining the normal environmental temperature for the birds to thrive. Imagine you're bringing in day-old chicks that are featherless. They don't produce heat from their body themselves. They need external heat for them to brood, for the normal feather to not come out of their bodies, which will now generate the heat. Some people, they underheat these chicks when they're coming up. Some, they overheat them. When you underheat or you overheat, definitely it will have adverse effect on the growth of the birds. Yes, that's on the breeding side. Then some people don't know the vaccination and the medication schedule for the class of birds that they are rearing. Some people will just tell you, you use Newcastle vaccination. You say, me, I have never used it before. I don't even need it. Yeah. You are exposing the birds to risk. Yeah. Either you've had Newcastle outbreak before on the farm or not. You must give them the vaccination. That in case of outbreak, they have immunity inside of them that will fight that viral infection when it comes. But when you don't have that, when you don't give them that vaccination, they are exposed. They are exposed. So when you do that, the vaccination, the medication, that's antibiotics that you're supposed to give them periodically. If you don't do that, you predispose them to disease infestation or outbreak on your farm. So now that is true. Then the area of feeding, we have different classes of feed that you're supposed to give your birds. Pre-starter, then starter, grower, finishers. Now, when you're supposed to give them pre-starter, that will give them good start in life. It's like a booster for them. Like the first 1 week of their lives. You don't give them that. And when you're even giving them starter feed, you give them low quality feed. Or when you're supposed to give some level of grammage of feed to the birds, you don't monitor how many grams of feed a chick need per day. Some people don't know that. They just know that, let me just give them feed. But there is a certain amount of feed they must eat per day for optimum growth. No. So if you don't do that, you are underfeeding them. No. So there's every tendency that those birds will not grow well. They will be exposed to disease outbreak because they don't have enough energy to fight diseases and all those outbreaks when it comes, because they are underfed. Then in the area of management too, that's human interaction with the birds. So people, they just enter their pen anyhow. They're just coming from toilet. They're coming from somewhere. The first thing is boom, boom. With the clothes, with the shoes they wear, they just enter the pen like that. So you don't know what you are carrying from, where you're coming from. You just enter the pen. Probably you are now introducing some pathogenic organisms into the pen house. So that will break down the birds. You don't know that. Then again, the source of water they're giving them. Now, there is prevalence of salmonellosis in poultry in Nigeria.
Okay. What's salmonellosis?
Salmonellosis is a disease that is caused by salmonella.
Okay.
So mostly it's in bad water, like the one that causes typhoid for human beings.
Yeah.
So it's like that for them. It's like fowl typhoid.
Okay.
Sure, you understand? So they get that from water or from infected feed. Like now, even these people that do toll milling, that means they go to all these feed mill shop to go and mill their feed, that they recycle bags. Bag that has been used in one farm, they use it for you to package your feed, you take it to your own farm. So inadvertently you are introducing, if there has been an outbreak in that farm, you're introducing that into your own farm. Then the source of water that you use again matters. Salmonellosis is they can get it from the water source. That's if you're using this borehole or open well. So that's why you should treat your water before you give to the birds. Just like human beings, you don't just drink untreated water. Treat your water, let it pass through filter, let it pass some treatment before it gets to the birds. So water you can drink is the same water you should give to your birds.
Wow. All right, thank you very much for clearing that very issue. So it's not about, fits me or it fits me. You just have to do what is right.
Yes.
Now, has there been any narration of where someone embarked into poultry farming without having done any of these routines and have a successful farm? Like you never had, you didn't do all those.
Like you didn't do vaccinations, you didn't do treatment.
Oh yeah. Or is a pari passu? Are they intertwined together? It's simply unavoidable, because I can see there are some things you go into, probably like fish pond now. You can go into fish pond and believe me, till almost everything is sold out without you doing anything. You can go into maybe rabbitry or anything, maybe goat rearing or thereabouts, or even cows, and everything goes on smooth.
Josh,
yes.
If you're going into any livestock enterprise
you must.
at a commercial level,
at commercial level.
You must follow the protocol. You know why? You are investing a large sum of money into the enterprise. So if you don't follow protocols, you are exposing your investment to risk. Avoidable risk. Avoidable risk. So it is better you give them all those things. Good environment for them to
It's like having a house without a door. Yeah,
so give them vaccination when you're supposed to give them. Give them their medication routinely. Then your mind will be at rest that you have done what you're supposed to do. But if it is just this small backyard poultry you have, there are so many things you can jump. Just because you have very few birds, they are just for home consumption, so you are not expecting that you are making that much profit on them. So you may overlook some of these things. But when it is commercial level, you must do those things for your investment to be secured. You must do them.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria (ARCN) coordinates the activities of research institutes and is responsible for supervision, regulation, coordination of research activities and programs of higher institutions in Nigeria. And Professor Hamidu Shaributu, since assumption as Executive Secretary of ARCN in April 2020, has solidified the transformation of agriculture in Nigeria through strategic and meaningful execution of research findings for improvement of the agricultural sector. Since then, Professor Shaributu has operated as visionary captain by restoring the council's glory with the first ever agricultural television and radio station in Nigeria, with well-equipped studios parading state-of-the-art equipment.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria also has a brand new electronic library to further promote research and visualizations of deep thoughts on agricultural development in Nigeria.
The museum, located in the Senator Abdullahi Adamu Center, is an agricultural museum saddled with the responsibility of keeping records of agricultural findings, discoveries, researches for continuity and history purposes.
ARCN,
promoting agriculture.
Interesting. Now, in your own opinion now, we've seen where people have actually brought new birds. You know, there are some birds that they are like local chicken. They are like local, but they are not actually local. How disease resistant are those, and how healthy are they? Because I've seen some and they tell you that they are a mixture of agric and local.
Okay,
chicken.
like this noila that we have.
Yeah.
Like this noila. Yes, you know, because they have been tropicalized.
Okay.
They were bred using our local birds with the exotic one. So now, the immunity inside our local birds has been transferred
To them.
Oh. So now, that is the reason why the research was done, to reduce the risk of disease outbreak and all those things. So when we now do that, you cross our local birds, which have natural immunity for our environment, with the exotic ones that have good growth and all those things, you are bound to have birds that are resistant to diseases and they grow very healthy. In the case of Naila that you're talking about.
Okay.
Yes, but you know, when it is purely exotic birds, they were developed from foreign countries, then introduced into our environment. So there are some diseases that will come over them that is existing in an environment that they may not be able to withstand unless you vaccinate them and you treat them normally.
Okay.
So when you do that, then you are sure to have good result from them too.
All right. Well, Mr. Bola, before we let you go, of course, as usual, we will give you that opportunity to be able to share to our team viewers, maybe if they want some consultation. And we know you don't charge much because you're a gentleman. And then at the same time, what is your advice to Nigerians as regarding this very prevalence of poultry disease and its mortality rate? What's your advice generally?
Let me start from the advice. The first thing is that if you want to be a successful poultry farmer, you must follow the protocols in poultry rearing. Number one, make sure you have a good site for your poultry, a good housing system for them. You must have good feed quality for them. Then the water source must be clean and a very, very good one for your birds. Then make sure that you have good management, because it's an investment, and you must do it in a way that you will get something in return from them. Don't jump any of this protocol. It is risky. Don't. So you can consult me. My name is Bola Olutade. I'm a chief animal scientist, a registered animal scientist working with Agric Research Council of Nigeria. My number is, can I give them my number?
Go ahead.
Okay. 0806 943 6060.
And maybe an email.
Yeah, bolaolutade@yahoo.com.
Right.
Or nisifarms@yahoo.com.
All right, nisifarms@yahoo.com, from the words of none other but Chief Livestock Department Chief Livestock Department of ARCN, Mr. Bola Olutadi, Chief Animal Scientist. I beg your pardon, I keep making that mistake on and on. But I think I think I'm actually giving you a chief veterinary officer. But anyways, on that
I'm
note,
happy being an animal scientist.
Okay, you're fine there. Okay. Well, on that note, we come to the end of this very episode of the program. My name remains Joshua Shire. Thank you for being a part of the program. Bye for now.